y'all, it's Jess, and welcome back to Roots and Refuge Farm. I have been invited today to join in a collaboration with the sweet folks over at Wholesome Roots Farmstead. Today I'm going to be sharing with you the good, the bad, and the ugly of homesteading. We started our modern homesteading adventure around 4.5 years ago, and in that process we have definitely experienced a lot of good, a lot of bad, and a lot of ugly. Let's start with the good. Obviously, the food. It's amazing. It is definitely a good thing to be able to walk through your yard at any point of the day and gather up a full meal. It's a beautiful meal too. Now obviously, being able to make a plate of food like that is definitely a perk. There are a lot of other really amazing aspects to homesteading. I dreamed about this forever. This was seriously a lifelong dream for me, and especially for the decade that I was raising children and adulting without a farm. That is all I wanted to do. I read every book, I followed every blog, I watched every YouTube video. This was my absolute total dream come true, and so now I am wooed by the entire thing. I love to be able to teach my children about how food grows, to teach them an appreciation for hard work. I love getting to spend my days out in nature, being closer to my creator and not being in the hustle and bustle of the man-made world. A long time ago, I decided that I was going to submit myself to become a student of beauty and to live an unusual wonder. When we moved on our farm, that proved to be incredibly simple to do. So that's what I do. And that's how I live. And this homestead is a total backdrop for a complete fairy tale. Now, it definitely has its downs, and we'll get to that, but the good points are so worth it. And in the years that we have been doing this, we have found such an incredible community of other like-minded people through media outlets, in the internet, and it's the most incredible thing to get to experience this adventure with so many other people from all over the world. And adventure it is. Even when it is hard, even when it is tiring, even when it is expensive, this life is so cool. I don't know how else to say it. It's just cool. I mean, I can't tell you how often Maya and I look at each other and go, our life is cool. Whenever we're watching baby goats get born, whenever we're watching our children learn skills that they would never have even ever been given an opportunity to have, when we get to experience the joy of growing our own food, of seeing things and tasting things and experiencing things that just wouldn't have been available to us otherwise. It is an incredibly amazing life to get to live. Sincerely, I don't remember the last time that I was bored, because even in the downtime, I have learned to rest in a way that I never knew how to do before I had a farm. Just to come out and sit in the midst of our hard work and watch it grow. Now let's talk about the bad. Well, it's really hard work. And I mean, really hard work. The reason why we had to learn how to rest, well, it was because we learned how to get really tired. In times like now, when it's summer, the hours are long. We wake up with the sun. That is, if we want to get anything done before it's 100 degrees outside. We work our butts off, juggling family and ministry and all of this work. And the fact of the matter is, a lot of people don't understand. A lot of your relationships, people that don't have farms and dairy animals and gardens that have to be maintained. They still want certain parts of your life. They still want attendance. They still want attention. And it's their right to want it. I mean, we're in a relationship with them. But sometimes it's so exhausting whenever you have been working 14-hour days. Your to-do list is 15 miles long. You literally have the lives of your dream come true resting on your shoulders, and people are inviting you to come on weekends away or be gone for hours a day at different trips or events. And it's hard because you don't want to let anybody down. But if you blow off your responsibilities, quite literally things could die. I would say the bad has been learning to juggle all of this and having to confront the bad things that are in me, the bad attitudes, the bad habits, the laziness. And yes, all that stuff was in me. Way more than I ever imagined so. In measures that I was ashamed to admit. My goodness, I cannot tell you how lazy I was when I got this life. I begged God for it for literally my entire adulthood, and then He gave it to me. And I would lay down at night just completely exhausted and then remember, oh goodness, I've got to go do this, I've got to go do that, and I'd have to drag myself out of bed. And there were times that I didn't get out of bed. I didn't go do the things that I had to do, and things died. Maybe not everybody has that in their story, but I do. I certainly know the bitterness and the pain that comes when the bad parts of you come to the surface and win. So all those ugly things that I've had to face, the laziness, the impatience, the wild disappointment of not having things go my way, I guess in the end it has brought about good character traits. But there's been a lot of those bad things, like confronting the fact in myself that I have a tendency to be a little irrational and irresponsible sometimes whenever it comes to making commitment. And I've had to learn the hard way that it's best not to commit to animals that you don't know how to take care of yet. I've bitten off more than I can chew. I've run myself ragged in the process of learning to rest. And to be honest, we've overcommitted financially and got ourselves way in over our head at different times. So can I call those things bad things in homesteading? They felt bad at the time. I think that probably looking at the good and the bad and the ugly of homesteading, a lot of these things, they're gonna go hand in hand, because the bad parts of me definitely got weeded out by homesteading. And it has been a painful and hard process. But ultimately, in the end, I guess I can only say that that's another good thing. So now let's talk about the ugly. You may have noticed that our little buck Cole has been hanging out in the backyard where the kids play by himself. That's because our bucks, Huckleberry and Mr. Darcy, died last week. Both of them within a week from each other. We think it was barber pole worms. We don't know. They just went down and went down really fast. We did everything that we knew how to do, exhausted all the resources that we had, but in the end, they were gone. I read once where someone said where there's livestock, there's dead stock. And the ugly truth is, if you're going to have a homestead, you're going to become very familiar with the circle of life really hard. Especially if you fall in love with them the way that I do. Especially if you wanted it more than you've ever wanted anything else. It's really, really hard. So hard that I actually hadn't put it on media yet. I knew that this collaboration was coming up, and I knew that I was gonna have to address it. People have even asked me, where's Mr. Darcy? And I've just ignored the question, because the fact of the matter is, there's still a big part in me that really, really has a hard time with this ugly aspect of homesteading. I get wildly invested in these animals and wildly invested in my plans, and sometimes they just don't pan out. All my life I've been told that I am one of those annoying optimists where I always see the glass half full, and it's true, I really am. And to be honest, I'm thankful even for what it's done to me to have to walk through death so closely. I mean, especially something like a buck. I mean, you get really, really attached to these animals, and they can stay with you for a really long time. And when they go, it leaves a void on your farm. You always remember them. Now, it's hard and it's ugly. Mr. Darcy dying, there was nothing not ugly about that. It's one of the hardest things I've had to go through on this farm. He was in a lot of pain, and we were sitting back there with him and just holding him, and I just began to sing in that moment where this goat that I really adored and had really put a lot into, and I tried with my whole heart to save. And it was obvious that he was dying, and we just sat there with him, and I just began to sing over him. I just began to worship in that moment, because the fact is, even though that death was ugly, there was part of it that was beautiful. Even whenever we lose one, it's kind of amazing that they got to spend their life being so loved. My dad told me once that the great cost of love is sorrow. And yes, you're gonna go through a lot of sorrow on a farm. It might expose the ugliest parts of you. You're gonna go through a lot of toiling and a lot of hard work. You're gonna go through a lot of disappointment. You are going to have to face your impatience and face your laziness. But the truth of the matter is, when it all boils down to it, I really believe that everything about having a farm, it turns out for our good in the end. I was a completely different person before we embarked on the journey of becoming homesteaders. I had notions of beauty and notions of the works of God. I had made the choice to love in times whenever it hurt, but nothing like what's happened now. Now I understand what it means to hold a handful of seeds and understand that in those seeds is a garden like this. I understand what it means to let go of something that you invested in with the full confidence that there are a herd full of fresh starts coming behind it. I understand now that really hard work allows us to experience true rest. I understand how to be still, how to watch my children grow up in a classroom that I partnered with God in building them. And I want to encourage you that if you are at the place of dreaming for this life, if you are reading the blogs and reading the books and watching the videos and aching inside your heart to one day be able to have this, it is going to cost you things that you never even imagined. It is going to confront in you things that you don't even know are there. But I promise you, I promise you, I promise you right now, it is absolutely worth it. Thank you so much for watching. I bless you. Until next time.